In 1941, inside a clandestine workshop in Hertfordshire, British engineers unveiled a new weapon to the Special Operations Executive Commanders. It wasn't a gun. It wasn't a bomb. It was a dead rat. Skinned, stuffed with plastic explosive, and sewn back together to look freshly deceased. Everyone who saw it understood the genius immediately, but the execution made them deeply uncomfortable. This was not a conventional weapon. This was something that exploited human disgust as a tactical advantage. The explosive rat would never technically detonate in combat, yet the SOE would later assess it as one of their most successful psychological warfare operations of the entire war. Welcome to Ungentlemanly Engineering. Today, we are looking at the weapon that proved a dead rodent could paralyze the German war machine more effectively than a tank. By 1941, Germany controlled the industrial heart of Europe. Thousands of factories, rail lines and power stations across France, Belgium and the Netherlands were churning out supplies for the Wehrmacht. Britain needed to destroy them, but conventional bombing was costly and inaccurate. The Special Operations Executive, or SOE, needed a way to destroy industrial boilers from the inside. But how do you get a bomb past German security checkpoints? Guards searched luggage, they inspected cargo. But SOE understood human psychology. They needed an object so mundane, so inherently worthless, and so disgusting that no German guard would ever want to touch it, let alone inspect it. The answer was vermin. Rats infested every boiler room, coal pile, and locomotive shed in Europe. A dead rat near a coal pile was invisible. It was part of the scenery. And that invisibility was the key. The development began at Station 12, a top-secret facility at Aston House near Stevenage. But first, they needed the raw materials. Fresh, dead rats. The procurement process itself was a masterpiece of spycraft. An SOE officer approached a medical supply company in London, posing as a student who needed specimens for London University laboratory experiments. The supplier never questioned the order. Dead rats for anatomical study were a routine request. Once the rats arrived at Station 12, the grim work began. The team included specialists with unusual backgrounds, including one worker who was reportedly a former bacon handler from Sainsbury's grocery chain. Why? Because he possessed the precise, delicate touch needed for working with animal tissue without tearing the skin. This wasn't engineering, it was taxidermy with a lethal twist. The construction process was exacting. Each rat was carefully skinned with surgical tools. The internal organs were removed and disposed of. In their place, the engineers molded a charge of Nobel 808 plastic explosive. This was a green, putty-like substance that smelled faintly of almonds. It was chosen because it was safe to handle and could be molded to match the exact internal contours of the rat's body cavity. The goal was to maintain the natural weight and squishiness of a real dead animal. Inside the explosive, they embedded a number 27 detonator and a standard copper tube igniter with a safety fuse. Alternatively, they could use a time pencil fuse for delayed detonation. Finally, the skin was sewn back together using fine thread and small stitches placed along the natural body seams. The result was a weapon that could pass any visual inspection. If a guard picked it up, it felt like a dead rat. It looked like a dead rat. Unless he cut it open, he would never know he was holding a bomb. The genius of the explosive rat lay in its trigger mechanism. It didn't need a complex timer. It relied on a universal human behavior known as the Stoker's reflex. Imagine a German worker in a locomotive boiler room. He is shoveling coal. Suddenly, he sees a dead rat lying on the coal pile. What does he do? He doesn't call a supervisor. He doesn't examine it. He feels disgusted. His instinct is to dispose of it immediately. And the easiest way to dispose of rubbish in a boiler room is to shovel it into the furnace. That was the trap. The enemy would deliver the weapon to the target himself. Once inside the furnace, the heat would ignite the fuse. The small amount of plastic explosive wasn't enough to destroy a train on its own. But inside a high-pressure steam boiler, the shockwave would rupture the pressure vessel. The resulting steam explosion would tear the locomotive apart, killing the crew and shutting down the rail line for weeks. So, how many German trains did the rats destroy? The answer is 0. The first and only shipment of approximately 100 explosive rats was intercepted by German forces in 1942 before they could be distributed to the French resistance. The mission was a total operational failure, or so it seemed. When the Germans discovered what was inside the rats, they panicked. They didn't just destroy them, they studied them. The captured rats were exhibited at top German military schools as examples of fiendish British ingenuity. And then the paranoia set in. The German High Command assumed that if they found one shipment, there must be thousands more already distributed across Europe. They ordered a massive search. For the rest of the war, German security forces wasted thousands of man-hours hunting for dead rats. Every time a guard saw a dead rodent in a factory, a boiler room, or a coal depot, he had to treat it as a potential bomb. Coal piles were raked through, boiler rooms were inspected. Resources that should have been used fighting the Allies were spent examining roadkill. An SOE internal memo later noted with satisfaction, the trouble caused to the Germans was a much greater success to Britain than if the rats had actually been used. They achieved a moral effect, causing the enemy to doubt the very ground they walked on. The Germans effectively weaponized their own thoroughness against themselves. The explosive rat program cost the British almost nothing. A few pounds of explosive, some dead vermin, and the cost of sewing thread. In return, they bought months of disruption and paranoia deep inside the Nazi Empire. It proved a fundamental rule of ungentlemanly warfare. You don't always need to blow things up to win. Sometimes, you just need to make your enemy afraid that anything might blow up, even the rats. If you enjoyed this story of disgusting ingenuity, make sure to subscribe to Ungentlemanly Engineering. Next time, we're going to look at the Great Panjandrum, a rocket-propelled wheel that was supposed to storm the beaches of Normandy, but ended up chasing its own generals down the beach. You won't want to miss that disaster.